Thorkel has the eyes of a serial killer. Is anybody else just more than a little bit disturbed? Hey guys, it's your girl Aisha, aka Geek XX Chic, and we are back with another reaction to Vinland Saga. We're now on season 1, episode 16, which is called History of Beasts. So in the last episode, we said goodbye to a character, Ragnar. He hasn't been around for long, but we know that he meant a lot to Canute. But it seems that Askeladd felt that he was no longer a necessary part of this journey, and so he basically took him out and is going to be giving the story that the English took him out instead. And we just got to learn a little bit more about the political stuff that's going on in the Danish kingdom household. And on the other side of things, the British forces have been alerted to the fact that Askeladd is trying to make his way on land to, Gainsborough, and Thorkel found out about this. So he and his men are going to try to move in and intercept because he's looking for a battle. So I'm ready to jump into this episode and see what fresh nonsense we have to jump into. But just before I do, a reminder that if you'd like to be in the know of when I drop these episodes, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. All right, that out of the way, let's get into the episode right now. Please, Askeladd, please. Dude, I thought you knew that you were on babysitting duty already. I'm sorry, Canute. I'm really sorry, bro. I was gonna say, will it make a difference if you learn the truth? Probably not. Maybe he would have been if you could have worked together. Someone smart enough is probably gonna put it together. No. I mean, he enabled him, but that's not the only reason. I think you're underestimating Canute, but do that, please. If he's the one who orders both your heads off, I'll be happy. He'll probably just dump him off at his dad. There you go. It's called integrity, but okay. So if you kill him, you know he's not going to talk. Yeah, bro. They will continue to torture you because you open your mouth, bro. They might have actually pitied you if you'd stayed quiet. Are you finally going to get your hands dirty? At least I'll give it this. At least he's finally getting his hands dirty. No worse than what you guys have already done. He's got beef with y'all. He's not lying, but it doesn't make what the Danes are doing any better. I mean, this whole justification that people have when they do atrocities to an indigenous people or whoever's there in the name of, oh, well, other people did it. Oh, your people did. Okay, so when they did it was wrong too. Like, where does the cycle stop? It's gonna hurt. But it's broken anyway. Is it England or is it Thorkel? The man who can saw you in half. I love that Thorkel's name alone is enough to make them all scared. Sadly, Thorkel is not as smart as Askeladd, though. Thanks, Thorkel. I think. Playmate. Man is insane. Look at him yelling, though. The prince found his voice. Yeah, that's who you look up to. You could leave, Thorfinn, at any point. Psych! Boom.
去る者は去れ。俺は咎めねえ。俺と共に来る奴は歩け。
I mean, you all might as well march because Thorkel gonna kill all y'all anyway. To be perfectly honest. Thorkel has the eyes of a serial killer. Is anybody else just more than a little bit disturbed? I was gonna say you should have followed Askeladd at that point. He's not gonna want turncoats, and Askeladd knew that. That's why he let you go.
仲間に入れてやりゃいいのに。いいんだよ、こいつらクズだ。戦いもしねえで降参するような臆病。よ、うるさくてわからねえが、橋を壊す時間ぐらいはあるかもな。
Meanwhile, you've got time to be bringing this man emptying every last drop of wine you've got in the 5-mile radius.
いやー、相当ちべてぞこれ。
Yeah. Hope y'all get hypothermia and then your nuts never come back.
王子をこっちの二頭立てに移せ。御者はお前だ。トルフィンは王子と一緒に乗って待機してろ。
He's gonna try to make Thorkel choose a direction.
俺の特技だ。そいつがどんなやつなのか、パッとつらみりゃ大体わか
How can you?
る。
奪うって兄じゃん。
声がでけえよ。あとでよ、この兵団はもうおしまいだ。
So he figured out his men were gonna take the prince and leave. That's why he's doing it. But it's also not a bad idea to split everybody up, because then Thorkel's gotta choose.
月が落ちてんだよ。巻いたはずのトルケルにも見っこっちまったじゃねえか。中をすんなよ。
I mean, you don't have to do everything your brother does, bro. If you really want to stick with Askeladd, go stay with him.
これで連中も2のソリを渡すのに手間取るだろう。
You think his men have sleds and cargo?
食料の調達に時間を食う。飯も食わずに長距離
Oh,
は
that's right. They have 500 lunches. But something tells me that Thorkel runs on pure hatred and adrenaline, so... And honestly, I feel like Thorkel would actually lift those carriages on his back and carry them over. Run! I'm sorry. Thorkel is insane! No way! What? Okay, let's watch. Let's stand in awe.
行軍って他に言葉を知らねえのか。あんたはよ。
Oh, not the snow in the face.
あと1日辛抱しろ。
I'm glad Askeladd knows he's outmatched when it comes to fighting that man.
あ、そう。ならここでお別れだ。
See, this is the one thing with Askeladd. I understand why he doesn't say everything to everybody, but it also creates distrust in certain situations. And also, these are just a bunch of, you know, viperous pirates who have no morals. So, unsurprisingly, they would turn. Sorry, the priest taking a drink. That's me. Like, sounds like a you problem. Thorkel's insane. I can't. He's like, hey, y'all start fighting each other. I'm just going to be mad that I didn't get to join. Anyway, that was an interesting episode. We see that, obviously, we knew that, well, Askeladd knew that the Brits were on their way. He knew that, that they'd been alerted, but he didn't know how much time or how long it was going to take. But it looks like he got somebody there that he tried to torture information out of. And you know what? I give kudos to the guy. You know, he took a real beating and he was not willing to say anything. But when we find out that, you know, it was Danes that took his family, he's got a real... It's not just oh, I don't like the Danes. It's like he has a real reason to hate the Danes. So that is a very strong reason not to give up with your intel if that's the one thing that you've got over them. In the end, he shouldn't have said it was Thorkel, though I do wish he hadn't tried to gloat. I get why he did. I mean, he was probably like, you know, a bit concussed and a little bit delirious from blood loss, but I just wish he'd held on to that a little bit longer, because I think if, you know, Askeladd would have moved differently if he thought it was just the Brits behind him versus Thorkel, who he knows thinks like a Dane, right? And fights like a Dane. So anyway, we see that he basically is like, if that's the case, we got to get moving immediately. We don't have time. Like, we have to get going, because he knows that Thorkel and his men do not sleep. Like, when they start pursuing, they pursue fast. And we see that poor Canute is not dealing well, understandably. The one parent the parental figure that he had in his life is gone, and he's a soft guy. Like, he's a soft kid. I think we all know this. He's a very, very soft kid, and he's understandably shocked and devastated and still trying to process his grief. And we've got Askeladd, who's being his usual douchey self. And he's like, yeah, get over it. I mean, I do understand him saying we can't bring the body. Like, that doesn't make any sense when we have to go in a hurry. But the slapping and just the tough love situation. Here's the thing. I don't think that Canute is soft, but he's not weak. And I think people need to know the difference between the two. I know by Danish standards, he's considered weak, and he definitely is not giving very much of an impression of somebody who should be followed, but he's not dumb. Again, we hear Ragnar's story about how that boy navigated a fairly bloody and just terrible household growing up. Like, that took smarts, and people with brains will always win in the long run over brawn. Like, brawn in the short term, absolutely. That's the reason why the Vikings had the reign that they did for as long as they did, was because for the longest time in humanity, the stronger you were, the more you got. But eventually, the people who were smart figured out how to fight smarter, not harder. They realized, hey, I'm never going to be the size of a Thorkel. I'm never going to be able to kill like him, but I can figure out smarter ways to take down people who are smarter, that are bigger than me, right? That's literally how most of humanity has progressed. That's how society progressed beyond being ruled by brute force and strength. They were like, okay, fine, if I can't take you down physically, how else can I take you down? That's how the evolution of weapons and warfare that we know today came from people who were quote unquote weaker, but who were smarter and figured out better ways and more effective ways to get what they needed to get done. To me, Canute falls into that category. He's not the size of a typical Dane. He clearly doesn't have a love of violence and fighting. And on top of that, he has a belief system religiously that does not allow him to live the way that the typical Dane does. So that lifestyle is not out the door for him. He's not going to be the kind of person that an Askeladd or any of these so-called true blue Danes are going to look up to. However, if he can learn to start fighting smarter, if he can find ways to fight in a way that it doesn't matter how big you are, you're going to go down, because for as big as Thorkel is, he's human. He's still someone, you cut his head off, he's still going to die. You pierce his heart, he's still going to die. Like, he's got vital spots, as Thorfinn mentioned a couple episodes ago, just like anyone else. So point is, I think Canute's the kind of person where he knows how to use his head and navigate around situations. He thinks a lot before he speaks, and that's not a bad thing. However, as I said, in this group of people, it's not something that's respected. And I do think that right now, the fact that Askeladd's kind of underestimating him, he could probably use to his advantage. Like, I kind of want him to stay quiet for now. And I think he's going to. Like, that last, shot of him just looking, kind of scowling and looking and not saying anything, I really do think he's plotting. Like, he's figuring out, okay, this is my situation. I don't have Ragnar anymore, who's the only person I knew for certain was in my corner. I'm surrounded by a bunch of these brutes who have literally no morals, no boundaries to what they're willing to do. And this man, who's supposed to be my subject, just slapped me across my face like I'm nothing. So what do I do? How do I navigate this situation? How do I make sure that I get through this alive, but also figure out a way to get out of here and potentially take someone like this down? At least I'm hoping. I could be wrong, but I really feel like Canute's starting to play a chess match in his head right now. But anyway, that's where we're kind of at with Canute, and we see that poor Thorfinn is still on babysitting duty. He doesn't want to be, but I'm not mad at it. I said it for a couple of episodes now. I think that Thorfinn needs a peer. I think he needs someone in his age group for a number of reasons, but also I think he could become somebody who would be better. I would prefer him being someone who eventually helps and protects Canute versus staying with Askeladd, because Askeladd and his people are just disgusting. Like, there's just no redemption for them. There might be a course for Thorfinn if he can stick with the king or with the prince and that royal family. I mean, I know the Danes are the ones who are doing this campaign, but you get my point. At least Canute at this point in time has a belief system and morals that are keeping him from doing the worst of the worst. And I don't think that'd be a bad thing for Thorfinn to be exposed to for a longer period than not. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Thorfinn's already too far into it that he won't care. But anyhow, they're on the road, they're going, the men are getting restless, and a lot of them are trying to desert because they're like, this is crazy. Like, ever since we decided to do the gamble, remember a few episodes ago, there was the gamble, things have not exactly gone the way that they would have expected, because typically Askeladd's plans are pretty quick on the ROI, right? Most of the time when he says, we're going to do something, they get the win. It's an easy win or a quick win. or they get the turnaround fairly quickly. But in this one, it doesn't look like things are going the way they anticipated, right? It's like they're being pursued by Thorkel, which is no joke. They're losing men. They're walking through enemy territory. They were ambushed, could have been taken out. Let's be real. A couple episodes ago, when that other Welsh kingdom had them under fire, they could have taken out pretty much all of them, and before Askeladd would have been able to do anything. Like, it's just, and then the winter set in, which they weren't anticipating. They weren't prepared for winter. They're super far from their ships and their supplies. And it's just like, it just seems like one bad thing after another keeps happening. And I don't think that Askeladd planned for all of this. Like, he definitely didn't plan for the prince was that was a opportunity that he saw when it came up, which he wasn't planning for, right? So that much he wasn't planning for. But I do think that Askeladd is a schemer. This is what he does. He's always trying to plan and figure out ways around a situation. So I don't think that he's without a plan. However, it's definitely not his better plan. Let's be real. Like, that's probably not the most solid plan he's ever had. And again, if he'd known about this, if he'd actually gone to England thinking, oh, I'm going to take Canute and I'm going to do all these things, he probably would have come up with a much more detailed and elaborate plan. But he's literally coming up with this thing probably a couple of hours ahead at a time, and the men are sensing it. They know things are not the way they're supposed to be. And we see there that when the fact that he's even asking the berserker, like, why are you following me? Why did you follow me all this time? Do you trust me, kind of thing? Like, Askeladd knows that right now he's really gambling hard, right? It's like, if you want to equate it to a card game, he is getting to the point where the bluffs are starting to run out and people are starting to, it's one of those things like, is it time to fold? Is it time? Can I keep bluffing to get to the end of this game, or are they going to call me here? So, because right now, truthfully, Askeladd could be dead to rights. He really could be, but he's really counting on a few things, right? I think the main things is that he is a good fighter. We know that Askeladd can fight really, really well if he needs to. He's got the berserker as well, who's willing to die for him. There's a handful of people there that are really possessive for him. And I also think in the back of his mind, he also thinks he's got Thorfinn, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think, and sadly, he's probably right, I think he's pretty sure that Thorfinn's not going to be okay with anyone taking out Askeladd but him. So that's right there, a pretty damn good bodyguard, or at least enough time for Askeladd to get his butt out of there if it came down to it. So anyway, point is, I do think he is plotting, but it is definitely going sideways. And we see that a lot of his men are to the point where they're like, this isn't worth it. We've been marching forever. We're hungry. We're tired. We're cold. There's no end in sight. And we still have potentially more English armies to deal with. Like, it's not worth it. And then when you see him, 4 men get speared at once, that's a wake up call. So anyhow, yeah, we got Thorkel on their heels across the bridge. We've got the men turning on him on the other side of the bridge. We already saw that he had a plan of taking the prince out ahead of time because Askeladd already smelt this betrayal coming. So yeah, things are getting spicy. Very, very spicy, but I look forward to seeing how it's all going to turn out in the next episode. So I hope you guys will be there. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please show some love, and I'll see you in the next one.